Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back Rachaad White and where he ranks on the NFL scale in terms of top running backs in the league. The reason I wanted to make this video today was because I saw a recent article that is done every week by NFL.com analyst Maurice Jones-Drew, former great running back in the NFL, and much like what we've been going over with the quarterback index, MJD does a running back index every week. And for this one, he said 3 teams whose 2024 starting running back isn't on the current roster. Don't worry, Rachaad White, or I guess I should say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, are not one of those 3 teams. But after you get past all of these teams, this is what's interesting to me. The top 15 running backs in the league right now, according to Maurice Jones-Drew. And of course, at number 1, you have Christian McCaffrey. I don't have to tell you guys how good Christian McCaffrey is. He's absolutely insane. Should be a candidate for MVP, but that's probably going to go to Lamar Jackson this year. Then you have Kieran Williams, who's been doing a fantastic job in a very, very short amount of time. I mean, the man's been absolutely crazy. He's got well over 1,000 rushing yards on the year and plenty of rushing touchdowns. Number 3, you have Raheem Mostert. Number 4, David Montgomery. Number 5, Jahmyr Gibbs. The Detroit Lions certainly have themselves a good pair of running backs. They almost have 2 guys with 1,000 rushing yards. That is nuts. Number 6, you have James Cook. Number 7, you have DeAndre Swift. Number 8, you have Derrick Henry, a fall from grace for the King. Number 9, you have Travis Etienne. Coming in at number 10, you have Isaiah Pacheco checking in on this list. He was formerly not ranked. And then you get to number 11, Rachaad White. Now, what is so interesting about this ranking for Rachaad White is, number 1, he comes in at number 11, and that's awesome. Congratulations to Rachaad White for getting ranked here as a top half running back in the league by a former great running back in Maurice Jones-Drew, but I wanted to take a deeper look at where he was ranked before, because if I zoom in, I'm going to have to scroll down here a little bit. That's number 13, Bijan Robinson. We don't got to worry about that. We don't even got to worry about Joe Mixon. If you look right above me, the previous week, Rachaad White was 3 ranks above his current ranking. He dropped 3 rankings from week 17's list to week 18, which means before this week, before the New Orleans Saints game, Rachaad White was all the way up at number 8 in the running backs, the top running backs in the league. And you take a look at his stats this year: 253 attempts, 915 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, 531 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. And, you know, this talks about, if I can actually zoom out here, please. This talks about what Rachaad White has done the past couple of weeks and putting the Bucs in the position to win the NFC South. Talks about the struggles that White had against the Saints. Admittedly, he struggled a decent bit in that game. Not only could he not get going running the football, but he did have a fumble. But point being is this. I took a look at this and I thought, Rachaad White was rank 8 in last week's rankings. Now he's ranked 11. He's hovering around that top 10 mark here, according to a former great running back, Maurice Jones-Drew. Is that accurate? Is Rachaad White a top 10 running back in the league only in his second year? I wanted to take a look at some of the stats today and give my own thoughts and opinions on it, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this as well. Let's go ahead and start off with the easy one, the rushing stats. And look, it has not been, I guess I should say, for a lack of effort from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have been using Rachaad White a generous amount. Rachaad White is third in the NFL in rushing attempts this year. So they are trying to get this man the football. Folks, that is more than Travis Etienne, Joe Mixon, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, Kieran Williams, James Cook, Chuba Hubbard, Raheem Mostert, David Montgomery, all of these other different types of running backs. Rachaad White's getting the football more. The only 2 running backs in the league who have not carried the football more than Rachaad White is Derrick Henry, the king himself, and Christian McCaffrey, as I said just a moment ago, a guy who could be or should be in the running for MVP. And Rachaad White's getting close to the amount of work of those guys. Now, obviously, you have Derrick Henry getting a few more carries, Christian McCaffrey getting a significant amount of more carries than Rachaad White. But the fact that White is all the way up there at number 3 for carries this year just goes to show how much trust the Buccaneers coaching staff, Dave Canales, Todd Bowles, had in the ability of Rachaad White this year to get the job done and really emphasize the running game more this year. What about receiving yards? Well, this is where things take a bit of a dip. Rachaad White is down here at number 15 with 915 rushing yards on the year. Could he get to 1,000? Certainly possible, and that would be a great thing to see. But right now, as it stands, you've only got 6 guys at 1,000 yards or over on the year, and that's with 1 game left to play. So certainly is, I wouldn't say a down year for running backs, but it is the modern NFL, right? It's a passing league. It is what it is. The fact that Rachaad White is very close to 1,000 yards and he has a chance to be the first 1,000-yard rusher since Doug Martin going all the way back to 2015, I believe. It's been a good long time, folks. I think speaks volumes, again, not just to the amount of work that Rachaad White has gotten this year, but the fact that he's been good throughout the process as well. Yards per attempt, it's not great. Rachaad White is 40th. He still has more yards per attempt than guys like Josh Jacobs, Javonte Williams, Ezekiel Elliott, Miles Sanders, Kareem Hunt, among a few others on that list. But yards per attempt, yeah, certainly leaves a lot to be desired. But another way that Rachaad White has certainly made himself valuable is as a receiving back. And this is where I don't think people pay a close enough attention to what Rachaad White has done this year. And we're going to be taking a look at the receiving stats. There's going to be a lot of wide receivers on here. I've already gone through the process of picking out the running backs who are above Rachaad White and then also highlighting Rachaad White himself. So in terms of targets on the year, where does Rachaad White rank amongst running backs? Not necessarily all players in the NFL, but just running backs. Let's take a look at that. So firstly, you have Breece Hall at number 1 with 93 targets. Coming in at number 2 is Alvin Kamara. Coming in at number 3 is Christian McCaffrey. Coming in at number 4 is Bijan Robinson. And then coming in at number 5 is Jahmyr Gibbs. Number 6 is Jaylen Warren of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And number 7 is Rachaad White. Again, it goes to showcase that, folks, besides Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, Rachaad White is the third most important piece on this Bucs offense. That's 88th among all skilled position players. That's wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, folks. Rachaad White is still in the top 100. It's pretty good for a running back in his second year. Well, what about receptions? How's Rachaad White been doing on the receiving end, actually catching the targets that are thrown his way? Well, number 1 and number 2, you've got Alvin Kamara and you've got Breece Hall. Number 3, you've got Christian McCaffrey. Rachaad White comes in at number 4 amongst all running backs, 51st among all skill position players. That's incredible. That is really incredible. And again, talk about usage rate. We talk about the workload that Rachaad White has gotten. We talk about his importance in this offense. He's pretty darn important. What about receiving yards? Let's go to this. By the way, crazy numbers up here for guys like Tyreek Hill amongst some others. It's a wild time. But what about just running backs? Well, coming in at number 1, you've got Breece Hall. Coming in at number 2, you've got Christian McCaffrey. Coming in at number 3 is Rachaad White. So Rachaad White, as a running back, he's in the top 3 in terms of attempts. In terms of receiving stats, he's number 3 in receiving yards. He's number 4 in receptions. And I believe he was number 6 or number 7 in targets. Sorry, he's number 4 in receptions. But this just goes to show that Rachaad White is a multifaceted, very versatile type of running back who can get the job done in multiple ways and be a potent weapon for an offense in multiple ways. Receiving touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, number 1. Shocker, I know. Jerome Ford coming in at number 2. Breece Hall coming in at number 3. James Cook, number 4. Saquon Barkley, number 5. Jerick McKinnon, number 6. Rachaad White, number 7. Tied with Bijan Robinson as well as a few other running backs in that mix. But still finishing in the top 10 for every single receiving stat. You take a look at the rushing stats yet again. He is number 3 in terms of carries. Yes, he does drop down to 15 in terms of rushing yards on the year, but what about rushing touchdowns? Well, he's finishing about number 17. So I think whenever you do talk about the question of is Rachaad White a top 10 running back in this league, you could argue yes, if you are factoring in the entire picture. Context matters in this situation, folks. And as a pure runner, has Rachaad White been absolutely phenomenal and amazing? No, he's been more so league average, about top 15 in the league in terms of rushing statistics, right? Hovering right around. He's tied for 15th with Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of rushing yards. In terms of work rate, he's top 5. He's, top 3 in terms of running back work rates here in the league. But in terms of a pure runner aspect, Rachaad White, at least right now, given the Bucs offensive line, is more so around top 15. Where I think you can bump that up to a top 10 conversation, especially for this 2023 season, is the receiving ability, which I think is slept on with Rachaad White. I do. You're talking about a guy who is coming in and he is number 7 in receiving targets in the year for all running backs, folks. You come into receptions, he's a guy that's coming in at number 4 in all running backs for receptions on the year. In receiving yards, he's coming in and being a guy who is coming in at number 3 in receiving yards. Receiving touchdowns, he is also in the top 10 as well. That is where I think you really can combine those pairs, those groupings of statistics, and start to say, okay, statistically, whenever you look at what Rachaad White has been able to do this year, whenever you look at his entire body of work, you could make an argument that Rachaad White has been a top 10 running back this season and has been an incredibly important piece to this Buccaneers offense. I think if Rachaad White can finish the year with 1,000 yards rushing, maybe add a little bit more work in the receiving game, and also possibly have a good showing in a playoff matchup, I think that will continue the argument to solidify Rachaad White as, I would say, bare minimum, a top 12, top 13 running back. But at least according to Maurice Jones-Drew, he's already been in that conversation. He was already a top 10 running back last week, according to MJD, and now he's still hovering around that mark despite a tough week last week against the New Orleans Saints. So I think things are only going to go up from here, folks. What do you guys think about Maurice Jones-Drew's opinions on Rachaad White? What do you think about my look at the statistics for Rachaad White? Do you agree that whenever you look at the whole body of work, yes, you could make a legitimate conversation and discussion for Rachaad White to be in the top 10 of running backs this season, with definitely a lot of room to grow and develop into something even more? Would love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, guys, I'll see you all in the next video or the next live stream. But until then, and as always, guys, goodbye for now, and go Bucs.